Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Inumala Kalavati, Assistant Professor, Department of English in Andhra Layala Institute of Engineering and Technology. A very warm welcome to 3-day international virtual workshop on research and publication jointly organized by Nirmala Memorial Foundation College of Commerce and Science, Mumbai, and Andhra Layala Institute of Engineering and Technology, Andhra Pradesh, in collaboration with Cape Comorin Trust. Before going to the introduction of the first speaker, I would like to give the importance of research and application. Research is the careful consideration of study regarding a particular concern, research problem using scientific. According to the American sociologist Earl Robert Babbie, research is a systematic inquiry to describe, explain, predict, and control the observed phenomena. It involves inductive and deductive methods. Good research follows a systematic approach to capture accurate data. Researchers need to practice ethics and a code of conduct while making observations or drawing conclusions. Coming to publications, publications are in journals can give your work visibility among other researchers in your field, outside of your immediate circle of contacts and colleagues. Journals can make your work more discoverable as they are already being read by circles of interested readers. Journal publication helps to preserve your work in the permanent records of research in the field. Adding your work to this record involves you in the active research community for a topic, helping you to expand your professional network, increasing potential for collaboration and interaction with through visible sources help others to learn. By adding your experiences to the literature of the field, it helps to build the corpus of knowledge in your subject area. So, without wasting much time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start with the introduction part, and it gives me great pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker today, Dr. Richa Ranjan, BA, LLB, LLM, PhD, MD University, Rotak, Diploma in Labor Laws, Postgraduate Diploma in Human Rights, and Certificate course in Negligence and Laws. Has been heading Swami Devadhyal Law College for the last commendable years and has 24 years of relevant experience in legal field. She has got highly acclaimed academic and administrative credentials. She is passionate about providing education to every class of society and has played significant role in helping the students develop essential transferable skills and qualities armed with strength and dignity. She always speaks with wisdom and delivers faithful instructions to students and faculty. She has supervised research leading to LLM and PhD degrees. She has published numerous research papers in legal journals of national and international repute. She has been a team leader throughout her professional career by organizing various co-curricular activities like legal aid clinics, mock parliament, moot courts, etc., and always inspire the students to go for legal aid camps and workshops in rural areas. Madam, thank you for accepting our invitation, and all our participants are eagerly waiting for your presentation. Ma'am, please take over this session.
Thank you so much. Am I visible and audible?
You're audible, ma'am.
Yes,
Visible?
No, you are not visible.
I think so. There's some kind of issues. Can I share the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not done. How can I be visible? Share the screen. Share the screen. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon,
So, today's topic of mine is the ABCs of research publication. So, I'll be discussing about it. And this is about my introduction. Publishing research findings in scholarly journals is a critical step for researchers to share their work with the scientific community and contribute to the advancement of knowledge in their field. However, the process of research publication can often be complex and daunting, especially for early career researchers. Today, we are going to explore the ABCs of research publication, providing a step-by-step guide to help researchers navigate through the essential consideration and tasks involved in publishing their work. So these are the breakdowns of ABCs. A is selecting an appropriate journal. B, building a strong manuscript. Complying with ethical and technical guidelines, data sharing and responsibility, engaging in peer review, and last is finalizing and publishing. So we are going to discuss one by one, everyone. So the first step is selecting an appropriate journal. The first step in the publication journey is to carefully select a journal that aligns with the scope and objectives of our research. Consider factors such as the journal's target audience, impact factor, reputation, and publication requirements. Thoroughly review the journal's guideline and recent publications to ensure that your research is a good fit. So, identifying your research area, we have to determine the specific field or discipline the research belongs to. This will help you narrow down the relevant journals that publish articles in that area. Research journal options. It conducts a literature search to identify journals that have previously published papers similar to your research topic. Then look for the journals that are well regarded in your field and have a strong reputation for publishing high quality research. Consider the journal scope. Review the aims and scope of each journal you are considering. Make sure that the journal publishes articles in your specific subfield or area of interest. Look for alignment between the journal scope and the focus of your research. Assess the journal's impact factor and reputation. The impact factor is a measure of the average number of your citation articles published in particular journal. Consider the impact factor of the journals you are considering and the influence and reach of the journals within the academic community. However, note that impact factor should not determining the factor for journal selection. Next, we should consider the target audience. Think about who you want to reach with your research. Consider whether the readership includes researchers, scholars, or professionals who would find your work relevant and interesting. Review the journal's publication policies. Check the journal's publications policy, including the types of articles, research papers, case studies, word limits formatting guidelines, and any open access option. And the journal policies aligned with your research and publication goals. Evaluate the journal's review process. Investigate the peer review process followed by the journal. A rigorous system ensures the quality and validity of the published research. Look for the journals that have transparent process. Actually, I'm not able to see the screen. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are very much audible.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, okay, thank you. So then we should consider the publication cost. Determine if there are any publication fees or charges associated with publishing. Some journals may have article processing charges or other fees, particularly if they are open access. And second is seek recommendations. Consult your colleagues, advisors, mentors for their suggestions and recommendations. Familiar with reputable journals in your research area and can offer valuable insights. Review recent publications. Take a look at the recent articles published in the journals you are considering. And we should remember it is important to thoroughly research and evaluate potential journal to find the best fit for our research. Next point is building a strong manuscript. Crafting a well-structured and compelling manuscript is crucial to attract the attention of journal editors and reviewers. Start with a captivating title that accurately reflects the essence of your research. Develop a concise and informative extract that summarizes your research objectives, methods, findings, and conclusions. Structure your manuscript with sections such as introduction, methods, results, discussions, and conclusions. Provide conclusions and sections provide clear and concise explanations supported by appropriate references, figures, and tables. Next is complying with ethical and technical guidelines. Maintaining research integrity is of the utmost importance. Ensure that your research was conducted ethically with necessary approvals and consent obtained, especially in studies involving human or animal subjects. Adhere to the journal's formatting guidelines, including font, spacing, heading, and referencing style. Avoid plagiarism by properly citing and referencing all sources used. Create visually appealing figures and tables that enhance our research. And the points which we are discussing is next point about what I'm going to discuss is about the data sharing and reproducibility. So consider making your research data and materials openly available to promote transparency and reproducibility. Depending on the journal's policies, you can include supplementary files. Deposit your data in reputable repositories or share it through other appropriate platforms. Provide detailed methodologies and sufficient information for others to replicate your research and validate your results. So this data sharing are important aspects of research publication. They promote transparency, accountability, advancement of scientific knowledge. And here are some of the information on data sharing in research publication. First, I'll detail you about the data sharing. Data sharing involves making research data available to other researchers, either upon request or through public repositories. It allows other scientists to verify and build upon the findings presented in a research publication. So what are the key points of data sharing? First is open data. Open data refers to making research data freely available to the public without any restrictions. It promotes collaborations and enables researchers to reanalyze and reinterpret data for new insights. Data repositories. Researchers can deposit their data in specialized repositories designed for different disciplines. These repositories provides a secure and organized platform for data storage and access. Yes, for data storage and access. And what the examples we are having are GenBank for genetic data, the Protein Data Bank for protein structure, and DRIAD for general scientific data. Data access statements. Many journals now require authors to include a data access statement in their publication. This statement provides information on how to access the data supporting the findings of the study, including any restrictions or condition. Now about the reproducibility. Reproducibility involves the ability to independently verify research findings using the same methods, data, and analytical procedures. It ensures the reliability and validity of scientific results. So here we can discuss what is the methodology. It is detailed methodology. Research publications should provide a clear and detailed description of the methods used to conduct the study. This includes information about data collection, experimental design, and analysis techniques. Sufficient details allow other researchers to replicate the study and obtain similar results. Next is code and software availability. If the study involves computational analysis or software tools, researchers should provide access to the code or software use. This allows others to run the same analysis and verify the results. Supplementary materials. Journals often encourage or require authors to provide supplementary materials. Why? That support the main findings of the study. These materials may include additional data, protocols, analytical details that can aid in reproducibility. Arjun? So, next point of mine is engaging in peer review. After submitting your manuscript, it will undergo a peer review process. Expert reviewers will evaluate the quality, validity, and relevance of your research, address their comments and suggestions constructively, revising your manuscript accordingly. Peer review is an iterative process that may require multiple rounds of revision. There can be many calls of revisions before final acceptance, and that is a very rigorous process, especially for the early learners. Use this opportunity to improve the clarity and robustness of your work. Regarding this research peer review is very critical process in academic and scientific research. It involves the evaluation of research papers, proposals, other scholarly work by experts in the same field to ensure the quality, validity, and relevance of the work. So we are having some important points to understand about peer review. Purpose of it is, the primary goal of peer review is to maintain the quality and integrity of scientific research. It acts as a filter to identify and improve the quality of manuscripts before they are published. This process, after researcher submits a manuscript, this process is followed. When the researcher's submission is done, submits a manuscripts to a journal or a conference, the editor assigns it to experts in the field who have relevant expertise. These reviewers assess the paper's methodology, originality, significance, and overall contribution to the field. They provide feedback and recommendations to the authors and the editor. And their anonymity. Peer review can be conducted through various models such as single blind, double blind, or open review. In single blind, the reviewers know the author's identities, but the authors are unaware of the reviewers' identities. So in double blind, both parties remain anonymous. So this is the main difference between the single blind, where the reviewers know the author's identity, and in double blind, both parties remain anonymous. Open review involves disclosing the reviewers' identities to the authors or making the review process public. Now, what are the types of peer review? Different journals and conferences may employ different types of peer review. Traditional peer review involves confidential assessments by experts. Some venues have adopted open peer review, where the reviewers' names are known to the authors and may even be published alongside the manuscript. What are the benefits? Peer review helps ensure that published research meets certain standards and improves the overall quality of scientific literature. It provides constructive feedback to authors, help identify errors or flaws, encourages authors to improve their work, and prevent the dissemination of incorrect or poorly conducted research. Limitations. Peer review is not a perfect system and has some limitations. After peer review also, there are some limitations. And what are these? It relies on human judgment, which can be subjective and may introduce biases. Reviewers may overlook errors or biases, and the process can be time-consuming, potentially delaying the dissemination of research. Ongoing developments are there. In recent years, there has been discussion and experimentation with alternative forms of peer review, such as post-publication review, preprint servers, and open access publishing. These are the experimentation done with alternative forms of peer review, and these are helping lots. These approaches aim to increase transparency, accelerate the dissemination of research, and encourage broader participation in the review process. Overall, what we can say is peer review plays a crucial role in maintaining the quality and integrity of scientific research, but it is important to recognize its limitation and explore innovative process to improve the process. Now about the finalizing and publishing. Once the manuscript is accepted, finalized, address any final revisions or formatting request from the journal. Afterward, your research will be scheduled for the publication. Some journals may provide online pre-publication versions before the final print publication. They can take an active role in promoting your work through social media, academic networks, and conferences to increase its visibility and impact within the scientific community. And the some detailed methodology points are research publication should provide a clear and detailed description of the methods used to conduct the study. This includes information about data collection, experiential design, and analysis technique. Sufficient details allow other researchers to replicate the study and obtain their result. And about the code and software availability. If the study involves computational analysis of software tools, researchers should provide access to the code or software used. This allows others to run the same analysis and verify the result. And then what are the supplementary materials? This I've discussed earlier also. Journals often encourage or requires others authors to comply with the supplementary materials. This may include additional data, protocols, analytical details that can aid in reproducibility. And we were discussing about the finalizing and publishing. So, finalizing and publishing a project or piece of work involves several important steps. There is a general guide to help you through the process. Review and editing. Carefully review your work for any errors or inconsistencies. Check for spelling, grammar, formatting, and factual accuracy. Make necessary revisions and edit to improve the overall quality of the project. Proofreading. After making the initial edits, proofread your work to catch any remaining errors. And that's very necessary. All the work is done, but because of the lack of proofreading, many problems occurs. It's helpful to have someone else review your work as well, as they can provide a fresh perspective and identify issues you might have missed. Formatting. Ensure that your project follows the desired formatting guidelines. This includes page layout, font style and size, heading spacings, and any specific requirements set by the publishing platform or the organization. Cover design. If you are publishing a book or any material that requires a cover design, that should be eye-catchy. Cover that reflects the content and attracts potential readers. You can hire a professional designer or use design software to create it yourself. Metadata and description. Provide relevant metadata such as title, author name, keywords, and a compelling description of your work. This information will help potential readers find and understand your project. Copyright registrations. This can be optional. Consider registering your work with the appropriate copyright office or organization to protect your intellectual property rights. And this is the main point that I can say, I can suggest, as I am from law background, copyright must, this should be must. This step may vary depending on your country's copyright laws. Distribution and marketing. Once your project is published, create a marketing plan to promote it. Utilize social media, your personal website or blog, author reviews, author interviews, reviews, and any other available channels to generate interest and reach your target audience. Launch and promotion. Plan a launch event or campaign to generate buzz and attract readers. Engage with your audience through book signings, virtual events, giveaways, and collaborations. With that, we can do with influencers as well. Continued support. After publication, continue engaging with your audience, responding to the reviews, and promoting your work. Consider seeking feedback from readers to help improve your future projects. Remember that the publishing process may vary depending upon the type of work we are finalizing. It can be book, article, website, and other resources. And the specific publishing platform you choose. It's essential to do thorough research and follow the guidelines provided by your selected platform to ensure a successful publication. And decide on the platform you want to use to publish your work. It could be traditional public house, a self-publishing platform, or an online platform, such as blog, website, anything. Research the requirements and guidelines of your chosen platform and follow the instructions for submission. And this process, remember that the publishing process may vary. When you decide about your publishing process, what should be any platform that should be chosen by you. It should be essential to do research and follow the guidelines provided by the selected platform to ensure a successful publication. Ethical and technical guidelines. In the field of research, it is of utmost importance to uphold ethical standards and adhere to technical guidelines to ensure the integrity and reliability of scientific investigations. So here is a comprehensive overview of ethical and technical compliance in research, highlighting the key principles and best practices that research should follow. The guideline encompasses various aspects, including informed consent, data privacy, and security, research design and methodology, data analysis, and interpretation, and publication and dissemination. By implementing these guidelines, researchers can uphold the highest ethical standard while producing rigorous and reliable research. And main thing is there should be a strong manuscript. For that manuscript, there should be a great title and abstract. That should be craft a concise and informative title that reflects the main focus of your research. Write an abstract that provides a clear summary of the research objective, methods, result, and conclusion. Earlier, I discussed this point in very brief manner. In fact, the manuscript should be discussed in detail. I was going to end my topic, but I think that manuscript should be given weightage. And what should be written after the title and the abstract? We should go on the introduction. Introduce the topic and provide context for your research. Clearly state the research question or the objective. Review relevant literature to establish the existing knowledge and research gap. Explain the significance and potential impact of your research. That potential impact will impact further. Materials and methods are used, kind of describe the materials, equipment, and data, sources used in your research. Detail the methodology and experimental design. Include sufficient information to allow replication of the study. Clearly state any statistical analysis or modeling techniques which are employed. After that, you have to come up with the results. Present the findings of your research in a logical and organized manner. Use tables, figures, and graphs to enhance clarity and conciseness. Report the results objectively without interpretation of speculation. And you should include any necessary statistical analysis and p-values. Discussion should be done as to interpret and explain the significance of your results. Relate your findings to the existing literature. Discuss if there are limitations or constraints of your study. Explore the implications of your research and suggest future directions. Summarizing we can summarize the main findings and their implication. Restate the research question or objective and provide a clear answer. discussing broader implications. And references should be cite all the sources you have referred throughout the manuscript. Follow a consistent citation style that should be specific of the specific journal's guidelines. The references should be mainly highlighted, because without references, there can be no research. Formatting and style. Follow the specific guidelines of the target journal or conference. Use clear and concise language. Ensure proper grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Adhere to any word count or page limit restrictions. Revision and proofreading. Review and revise your manuscript for clarity, coherence, and flow. Check for any error or inconsistencies. Seek feedback from the colleagues, mentors to improve your manuscript. So I've discussed about the data analysis and interpretation, and applying appropriate statistical methods, transparent reporting and interpretation of results, publication and dissemination, adhering to publication ethics, avoiding plagiarism and fraudulent practices. So what are the best practices for ethical and technical compliance? Establishing research ethics committee, training and education, documentation and record keeping, regular audits and quality assurance, collaboration and peer review. So these all are the aspects what we have seen, and in the end I'll conclude this. Publishing research finding is a significant achievement for researchers, allowing them to contribute to the scientific community and establish their credibility in their field. By following the ABCs of research publication, researcher can navigate the publication process effectively. Remember to select an appropriate journal, build a strong manuscript, comply with the ethical and technical guidelines, promote data sharing and reproducibility, engage in peer review, and actively promote your work post-publication. With careful attention to these steps, researchers can increase their chances of successful research publication and make a meaningful impact in their respective field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making an unusual presentation. It drew our attention to areas we have been neglecting. We appreciate you, ma'am. Now we are moving to queries. I request the participants, if they have any queries, to unmute themselves and ask Arjun Gupta, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm Dr.
Richa Ranjan.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Richa Ranjan. I'm working from the ID of Arjun Gupta.
Okay,
I'm Dr. Richa Ranjan. So actually, I don't know. I'm not visible. I'm trying to, but it's not happening.
It's okay, ma'am.
There's some connectivity issue or something. I don't know. It's happening.
Okay.
So I think it's been done. So any queries?
A participant is about to ask. Feel free to ask.
Now I'm going to listen about others. Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Shamjali.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the point. The building a strong manuscript. If you repeat this point and please tell me. Actually, I have seen this point, building a strong, how to build a strong manuscript. While
okay,
ma'am.
I can repeat.
Can I can repeat, please? Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, ma'am.
So I'll tell you about the general guidelines, what I have meant over here. First, we should go for the title and abstract. We have to craft a concise and informative title that will reflect our research. What is the main focus of our research? We have to write the abstract and provide a clear summary of the research objectives and the methods, results, and till the conclusion, we have to mention each and everything. First, we have to start with the introduction. We have to introduce the topic and provide context for the research. We have to clearly state the research question or the objective. Review relevant literature, what the already other persons have researched for. We have to review that concerned relevant literature to establish the existing knowledge and research gap. What the research you are going to do, for what purpose you have selected your topic, what is the research gap between your topic and the topic already which has been done by the others. That research gap you have to check about and explain the significance and potential impact of your research. Next point was of material and methods, what we can use. We can use the materials, equipment, data resources used in the research, and the details about the methodology and experimental design, which includes sufficient information to allow replication.
10 minutes left.
And clearly we have to mention about the statistical analysis. And there should be clear discussion also on what interpretation and explain the significance of your results. What are the findings? We have to relate the findings to the existing literature. What findings which are done by the researchers, that should be related to what the literature already exists. Discuss any limitations or constraints of your study. Explore the implications of your research and suggest for future directions. And what we have to do is report the result objectively. Without interpretation, we can't do anything. That should be done clearly. And summarize the main findings and their implications. That should be discussed in broader implications and the potential application of our research. Main thing about research is citations should be meant very clearly. The reference should be mentioned clearly throughout the manuscript. That should be followed by the specific general guidelines or what should be the consistent citation. And formatting and style should be specific through the specific guidelines. Target journal or the conference for whom you're writing. Use clear and concise language. There must not be any grammatical, punctuation, spell mistakes. So we should adhere to any word count or page limit restrictions which are mentioned by the authorities for whom you're writing, for what purpose you're writing. And I can say about it should be about the revision and proofreading. Review and revise should be the main thing of your manuscript. That should be in very clear manner, flowy. Check any errors or inconsistencies, and then seek feedback from your colleagues, mentors to improve your manuscript.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next participant, Alkadatta has raised his hand. Do you have any query? Alkadatta. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, we'll move to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Poonam Kakats. She completed her MCom, MPhil, PGDM, PhD, Mumbai University. Presently, she is working as an assistant professor in Nirmala Memorial Foundation, College of Commerce and Science, University of Mumbai. She has presented 14 international and 12 national research papers, and she has published 14 international and 18 international research papers. Coming to research pursuits, she is an awardee of minor research project in the academic year 2022 to 23 from ICSSR. Minor research project sponsored by University of Mumbai. Technical sessions at 5 national and 8 international conferences. Resource person for pre-PhD workshop and research methodologies. FGPs are 18. A peer review member at 5 national and 7 international conferences. She organized more than 10 research workshops or conferences at state, national, and international levels to her credit. She has many feathers in her cap like coordinator IQAC, director of incubation center, internal auditor at ISO certification, coordinator BMS, coordinator BCom, and coordinator BMM. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for accepting our invitation in spite of your busy schedule. Please take over the session, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for this warm welcome given. Good afternoon to one and all. I hope I'm audible to the audience.
Yes, ma'am. You're very much audible.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, ma'am, it's a great challenge to lead a session post-lunch, to engage the audience, to make them focus, to ensure that they are reciprocative to what you are talking to them. Post-lunch sessions are very difficult, but I take up this challenge and ensure that the discussions which take place on this forum are very meaningful, fruitful to the audience. They have a good takeaway from the session for today's session, which is project grants. I would love always to have my interaction, my sessions to be very interactive. So if you can permit the audience also to talk as and how we have interactions, ma'am, you may please unmute them so even they could raise queries and have some discussions with me.
Definitely, ma'am. If they have any queries, they can unmute themselves.
Thank you. Thank you. So before I go into the depth of the session and discuss about project grants, this is going to be a very real journey because by Almighty's grace, even I have been awarded the minor research project from ICSSR. So I could actually talk about my journey to get the grants that I have been receiving and what basically the expert committee looks in for in order to get these kind of scholarships and grants and financial assistance. We'll be talking about it today. I wanted to know what is exactly that my audience is expecting in this session for this 1 hour. They really want to know about project grants. Before I describe in detail, I really wanted to know what is that they expecting from this session. Yeah, anyone? What is that you really want to know about project grants? Getting grants, getting scholarship, who would not like it? Okay. And especially is a matter of prestige and honor if you're getting some kind of scholarships from government to conduct a project. I'm sure many more really wants to know what's the pathway, what is the pipeline as to how do we get these grants. Few of them really wants to know what are this, where should we hunt for various schemes in which we can put our applications for grant. Is there any pro forma, is there any format in which we need to put in our applications? What is there any window period open or any kind of advertisements done before releasing these grants? How do we get aware about these kind of announcements made for various grants that government is giving? I'm sure you may also be having a query in order to get this research grant. How do I write my proposal? Because the review committee is very strong. Thousands and thousands of applications come. Are being uploaded online in order to get these grants. And this review committees are very tough, and they are legends in research actually, who do the screening part and select the right competitive research proposal. So how do we actually write the proposal is also an art and science. I'm sure that you all would like to know about it. And finally, nevertheless, you would also like to know, ma'am, can you name some of the agencies which are giving this kind of fundings in the field of science, in the field of social sciences? So considering all these factors, I have tried to shortlist my agenda for today's session. I hereby share the screen. Just give me a moment. Well, there is one request I can see, Mr. Shiv Kumar Chande, sir. One request, sir, if you could take some screenshots and pictures for the session, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. All right, so I hereby share the screen. Is the screen visible?
It is visible.
It is visible. Thank you very much. Please permit me to keep my video off, so that my camera off, so that there is no problem in data pack and we can swiftly conduct the session.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Well, we're going to all talk about the project grants. So let me really understand, when you talk about grants, what do you really know about grants? What do you understand by the word grant? When I say grant, is basically a kind of financial assistance which is given to the investigator in order to conduct the research. Now, a question arises as to why do you need grant in research? For what all purposes do you need grant? So in order to start with my session, this is all what I'm going to cover. As I told you, what are the kinds of grants that one can expect in the field of research? What is the eligibility to get that grant? Is there any kind of a procedure or methodology that one can adapt at the time of submitting the application for the grant that they're looking out for? Well, along with the application, the key element to receive the grant is basically your proposal. So how do you really highlight your proposals in order to attract the review committee to give you grants? That is also an art and science. This is what we'll be discussing. What are the key points that you really need to write in your research proposals in order to receive the grant? Finally, we are also going to talk about what are the various sources of funding, or what are the various funding agencies where you can apply for getting grants. Well, when I talk about grant, I mean to say the funding is basically an act of providing financial resources. What do you mean by funding, or what do you mean by grants? So it's basically a kind of an assistance which is given in the form of financial resources, in the form of money or other values such as effort, time, to finance a project or any project. So usually researchers look out for such grants. Now the question arises, why do we need grant in research? Can anyone tell me? Is really financial assistance required in research? If yes, maybe for what purpose do we require it? Anyone? There are a lot of stages in research when you talk about research methodology. At every stage, one needs to take critical decisions, because one needs to keep in mind, because every decision that the researcher takes, the researcher has to defend as to why such decision is taken. Remember one thing, friends, always start with an end in your mind. When I say end in your mind means you need to have a lot of clarity in your thought as to what you want to execute, what you want to investigate. So this clarity in thought comes only after doing a lot of review of literature. After doing a lot of reading, you get an idea what is a research gap and where you want to conduct your research in. So my question arises that if you want to do really a research, is there any kind of a lot of financial assistance required? If yes, at what stages do you really require this kind of fundings? Or what are the various domains in which financial assistance are required in order to conduct a research? So this is where I tell you why funding is required in research. What are the various stages? What are the different types of grants that one can get in the field of research? One is research grant. So scholars like you and me who have an inclination towards research, who want to do some kind of a research and contribute towards society welfare, contributes towards helping the government in strategizing various policies, then we are such kind of researchers who want to do in-depth research, but we look out for some kind of assistance in getting that grant. Especially when you talk about science, if you want to conduct a research, you need a lot of equipment, laboratory equipment, and those really cost quite high. So how do you meet up this kind of cost? Hereby you really ask for some kind of scholarships and you ask for some kind of monetary assistance from the government. So to conduct research, these are basically one area, that is to buy equipments. You also may need grants in research, because sometimes you are stuck in an area, or probably that is not your domain in research, and you want to have some collaborations wherein the expertise of the collaborated party can really help you to browse through that stage of fix where you are in research. Therefore, their expertise that you are hiring, you definitely have to pay them. That's another area where you meet an expense for which you may require some kind of research assistance, and hence in research, you ask for some kind of grants. Definitely at the time of data collection also, you may have to travel to various places, maybe in the state area only, or maybe in the national boundaries. At times, you even have to cross national boundaries. You may have to go to international countries in order to gather some of your data, depending upon the title of your study. So there, sometimes you need some kind of fundings to support your research, because you have to do your data collection, which is spread far and wide. That's how then you make requests to the government that I require research, I require some kind of fundings in my research, maybe at data collection stage, or maybe at the stage of getting some expert advice, or maybe at the stage of getting some expert advice at the time of making my questionnaire. So these are the areas of research grant for which you need some kind of monetary assistance. Institutions and universities also require grants at times to conduct seminars and workshops. That's how then you make requests to various ministries in the domain in which you want to conduct your seminar and workshop for some kind of sponsored programs that you can conduct, and hence you ask for a grant, for which you have to submit your proposal as to what are you aiming at when you want to conduct the seminar and workshop. At times, you want to come up with capacity building programs, which is training programs for the teaching fraternity, for the staff members. So at that time, you have to call a lot of resource people who are going to train your teachers and teaching fraternities. So in order to give the honorariums also and conduct these training programs, you again require some kind of grants. That's another area where the need for financial assistance come into picture in research. I also explained you travel grants. I just explained, in case if you have got some kind of research which is outside the country, you may have to travel to various countries in order to collect data, in order to attend seminars, in order to attend conferences. in order to be a representative of any university and go ahead for presenting your research findings. So for such travel grants also, government is there to help us out. To be very honest, today there is quite a unique time in scientific research scenario. The government has invested a lot in several new institutions across the country. There is a whole new series of funding schemes in launch for investigators at every stage of their career across the country. Now, what is the problem is lack of awareness. Many of the budding researchers are not aware that in research at every stage of their career in research journey, there are kind of a support which is given by the government, especially when we talk about financial assistance. And this is where my topic for today is. Where and how can we get such kind of assistance? What is the procedural methodology for the same? Well, at times our papers are very aptly written, have been well appreciated by top journals like Emerald, like Scopus. But publication in some of the journals also demands a good amount. Are there any chances that we can get that such kind of a grant in order to do publications for our research findings? Yes, of course, government do ensures and organization do ensure that such kind of grants are given to the researcher in order to motivate them to conduct research and make some kind of publications. So we got a clear idea on this slide as to why grants are needed and at what stages, what particular areas where grants can be required by research scholars. Now the next question that arises in mind is, am I as an individual, as a research scholar, eligible to get grant? Is there any kind of an eligibility that one needs to keep in mind while asking for grants or putting an application for grant? Definitely, yes. One needs to keep in mind the eligibility for grant. Not every person can get a grant. Not every institute can get a grant. Not every university can get a grant. If a college or a teacher wants to get a grant from the funding agencies, point number one, the faculty has to be a permanent faculty and has to have a minimum degree, that is a PhD holder. Unless the candidate is not a PhD holder, they're getting such grants, the basic eligibility is not been satisfied. Next, grants can be given to any universities or colleges which are affiliated to universities, provided the college has got a recognition of 2F and 12B status. Now, this is a kind of an identity which grants are given according to the state. What is 2F, 12B? I will not really be taking so much of time here. You can really browse through search engines to know about it. But this is a mandate clause that a recognition the college needs to have under 2F, 12B in order to apply for grants under various schemes. So if your institute is not recognized under 2F, 12B status, then probably the institute is not eligible even to apply for the grants for research. Next, the candidate can be either working in PG or research departments if you want to put in an application to get for grants. And next is the profile of the researcher really needs to be strong enough. The backtrack of the research scholar who is applying for the grant really need to be strong enough in order to get grants successfully. So these are basic eligibility criteria that one needs to keep in mind while applying and searching for some schemes for getting their grants. I hope I'm clear for so far. So far we discussed what do you mean by grant is financial assistance. Why do we need grant? At what stage of research do we need grants? Is everyone eligible to get their grants? No, there are some eligibility criteria which I have discussed right now. Next, what we need to know is how to apply for a grant. Well, there are different schemes, but what are the schemes? I'll be talking at the later part of it. This is a step-by-step that I'm letting you know that if you are making your mind in order to apply for any research grant, what are the steps that you need to take? So one needs to decide well at what stage of the research they want the grant for. What is the purpose? Is it the purpose for publication? Is it the purpose for getting for travel? Is it a purpose for data collection? Is it the purpose for getting any kind of research, doing a research? Identify the need, the area, the purpose for which you're asking for financial assistance. Before you ask for financial assistance, are you eligible to ask for that? Find out the eligibility for, have an introspection, look into your institute, whether it is having that recognition. Are you a permanent faculty of your institute? Are you a minimum PhD holder, graduate, PhD holder? If yes, then you can think about putting an application for the grants in the field of research where you are aiming at. Now the question arises, how to apply for grants. So now in the next few slides, I shall talk with my experience that will help you in planning the project grant applications. Well, your application is a key element for your successful funding. Please note me and quote me if you want. Your application is the key element for successful funding. Now, I call and your application as a leg walk. Why do I call it as a leg walk? I say it because the process of funding is quite a long run, and for those who have applied for funding may relate to me very well. It involves a lot of people. When I talk about people, the principal investigator, that is your own self, the project director, the head of the institution also will play an equally important role when you are applying for your application. Various expert review committee members of the funding agency, they play the prime role in getting your application accepted or rejected. So as there are a lot of people involved who is going to do screening of your application, friends, let me tell you, it is really worthy to spend time and efforts for planning the application carefully. This is just a basic step, but this is the preliminary stage of getting fundings for your research. Your application has to be strong enough in order to attract the reader to move on to your proposal. So if your application itself is not satisfying certain documents, which are the basic documents, basic eligibility criteria itself, then definitely they all will not move to the next stage, which is full application, where it talks about your proposal. Now proposals are submitted all online. So in the full application, you're going to talk about as to why you want to do research, and you're going to really talk about how your research is going to contribute and going to be an an innovative idea in the field where you have selected to do your research in. After you submit your application, it is the peer review committee who are the legends in research. Let me tell you, thousands and thousands of applications go to various schemes, various funding agencies. It's very competitive market. And you have to arise from that. You have to be distinct from those thousands of applications in order to get selected. It is a challenge, let me tell you. So research is no rocket science, friends. No rocket science. It's all logical. When you're writing your proposal and your application, it has to be crystal clear. Please remember, your communication has to be effective. It's a two-way communication. When you're talking, you are talking in your proposal. With the other person is the expert who's reading your proposal. Is actually reading your mind, what is running in your mind, what you want to do, how you want to do. And all what you write, you have to defend well. We all know the structure of research methodology. We all know the structure. It starts with an abstract, starts with keywords, then introduction, review of literature, gap analysis, identifying the objectives of your study, drafting the hypothesis. But all when you write this down, your full application has to be so strong that the researcher finds some kind of element in your research in order to fund it. So you cannot talk anything in air. It has to be very scientific, and we all know research is scientific in nature. It's not arbitrary in nature. So when you're writing your application also, you need to defend well as to why are you thinking in this way. When you're saying my sample size is going to be 1000, you have to defend well why it is 1000. In order to defend it well, you need to do your review of literature well. And when you talk about fundings, your review of literature is not just concise to national level. It has to be international and national level. What research has been taken place at both the ends, national and international level, and what triggered the investigator to come to the topic of the research which is proposed in the proposal. If this draws the interest of the review committee, they accept it and you are funded for your project, or else they reject it and you have to reapply for it. Well, I say this, your application is your paperwork. Now, when you say application, your application asks for basic details. So they basically talk about your track records. 3 things are involved in an application. You have to assemble these 3 things. Now, let us see what are these 3 things in the application. I've still not come up to the proposal part. I'm just writing and talking about the application. Okay. You came to know about schemes or agencies. Probably the advertisements were out and rolled out by these funding agencies, calling for applications for getting grants for research. So you came across this advertisement and you decided you want to apply for it. So your first stage is putting an application for getting the grant. So I'm at that stage, putting an application. Lot of schemes and lot of agencies will come out with the ads. You need to decide in which scheme you want to go in. I'll be discussing the schemes in part B of my discussion, because there are schemes in science, in technology, there are schemes in history, there are schemes in psychology, there are schemes available in rural development, there are schemes available in education, there are schemes available in in the area of industrial development, in banking, in insurance. Papa, you need to decide what's your domain, which area is really drawing your interest, and accordingly you're going to look into the scheme and you're going to then apply for your application. Now, in your application, you need to assemble the 3 main key criteria, which is people, project, and place. When I talk about person is basically the project director. Person is basically the investigator. Person is you, the researcher, who is going to apply for the research grant. So certain tips that I can give you on these 3 elements, which are the 3 criteria in order to get successful grants, is in case of person, what they check is what is your track record as a person. They will check on what is your contribution been in research previously. Is there any kind of publications that you have done? So in application itself, there is one question what they ask you. Now, be it be any scheme that you put in your application for, whether it is in science, in technology, in social science research, any scheme that you put in your application, this is a basic question that you ask you, that they ask about your qualifications. Apart from your qualification, next thing what they ask you is, what is your track record? What's your contribution in research? So accordingly, you will have to mention some kind of publications that you have done in ABDC journals or any kind of repute journals. Mention the name of those papers that you have published in these repute journals. If you have got any kind of rewards, recognition, and appreciation, mention that your contribution in research has been appreciated by XYZ governing bodies. There are a lot of bodies which really gives a lot of appreciation to the researchers as a point of motivation to them. In case if you have received such kind of awards and recognitions, do mention it in your application. So basically, you are trying to describe your achievements and you as a person, your contribution as a person in research. Any distinct achievements made by you in the field of research, you need to write down in your application. Next is, you're going to talk about all this what you're going to write it down in the application. Support documents are required in the application. You may require a letter, and this letter that is supporting to all what you have presented in the application. This letter needs to be then authorized by the institution, the head of the institution. So the director or the principal of the college will definitely give a letter stating that all what is being mentioned in the application is all with truth and fair, and it's sole responsibility of the institution and the investigator to give the desired information given in the application. So this kind of letters and documentations are also required, which you need to assemble and keep before you submit your application. Next is all we talk about project. Now project, definitely the project is nothing else but your proposal. This proposal definitely cannot be rigid. Your proposal has to be a little flexible and feasible. Relevance of your proposed study, keep in mind that the research project that you are going to describe in your application needs to have some kind of social economic relevance, social economic development for the country. These days, a lot focus is given on what is the social relevance your research is going to have. What is economic relevance your research is going to have. So when you're deciding over your topic for your project, the proposal that you're going to make, please keep in mind that it has to contribute to a society welfare, or it has to help the government in devising policies and other strategies for the development of the country. It should not just concise to a limited area. Ultimately, it should help the policymakers in devising the required policy and strategies. This is what your project should talk about. Last is the place. Place is finally, you should talk about the environment where this research will be conducted. Is this place going to be conducive enough for you to conduct your research? Are there enough infrastructure available in order to conduct your research? If not, then you are asking the government for some, or the organization for some kind of assistance in order to provide the required infrastructure to conduct the research. So your application should talk in volumes, precisely talking about 3 parameters: person, project, and the infrastructure where you are going to conduct your research. All these 3 components are the essentials for most grant applications. Each scheme will have its own unique features. Now, friends, which scheme you're deciding that you will have to do a lot of research on. See, that is why I said it is legwork. You will have to do a lot of reading. You need to know each scheme. You need to decide. Your deciding factor is going to be which scheme you want to put in. And where do you get this information? 100% from, that's very obvious, from respective websites of the schemes and agencies. So you will have to visit the websites and do thorough reading to understand what each scheme has, its distinctive features that they are asking from the applicant. And the applicant has to ensure these unique features are considered at the time of making the application. So this is what I was talking, what basically you need to look into the scheme while you are deciding which scheme you should get into, and while you're deciding on your application. Whenever you're deciding any schemes for your or funding agencies, I could say, for your proposal, popular ones, I'm sure you all will be knowing, that is nothing new. One is UGC, second one is ICSSR. Their major focus is in science, but they definitely give grants in other disciplines also, that is humanity and social sciences. Now you need to very well know about these funding agencies, what is their criteria and parameter in order to provide funds. You need to know if you're applying for UGC, major research, minor research, or any other grant, are you eligible to ask for that grant? That was the first thing I had told in my second slide. find out the eligibility first. Find out what is the scheme, to what extent are they remitting financial assistance to you. Because every scheme, every project may have an upper limit for the financial assistance that they may grant you. Some projects, the upper limit is 20 lakhs, not beyond that. Some projects, their upper limit is 15 lakhs, not beyond that. Some projects, the upper limit is 5 lakhs only, not beyond that. So when I'm making my application, in that application, I have to mention about the cost which will be incurred while doing the research. I'm talking about the budget part. That is also a very critical part. Tum kitna paisa maang rahe ho? How much of funds are you asking for to do your project? You cannot talk in air. Believe me, making a project, you need to devote enough of time. It is not a overnight gunshot that you create a proposal and give. It requires a lot of planning, a lot of time devoted. Because in your proposal, you're going to talk about the budgetary aspect also, the expenditure, the cost involved in getting your research done. The budget has to be where you'll be utilizing your money if it is funded. So I need to mention various elements and various items. Under few schemes, they may mention the items. Funding can be done only in these 4 headings. You need to know that well, which are the headings. And accordingly, you will create your budget for which you'll ask funds. So in short, whichever scheme you want to get into, you need to study that scheme very well, how government or how that funding agency, that could be even NGOs. NGOs also does funding, I hope you all know. If it is something, if you're doing a research in contributing to a society welfare, there are private organizations and even NGOs who do fundings. So they want to know how are you going to utilize the funds which will be granted to them. And that utility, they have divided into various categories. You need to study the categories well while you're making your proposal, that I will be spending my the grant amount for expertise so-and-so amount. You should not be crossing the amount what they have mentioned, which you need to study on their website. You also need to know for how long will the support be given of the scheme. What is the duration of the research that I need to complete? Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 1 year? So you need to know the durations very well before you apply. Before you decide the scheme in which you want to, you also need to have an idea about what resources will the scheme offer you as an assistant. Will they give you any kind of research assistance? If I am asking that for my research, I need to have some kind of field work staff. I need to have research associates. I need to have research staff. Then ICSSR says, if you want any kind of research staff for your research, we will fund you for it. But you minimum have to pay 15,000 to the research staff per month. And how will you select the research staff? Randomly, you cannot select. You have to apply, you have to give an advertisement for it. So you need to invite applications for people who are interested to be a part of your project as research assistants and field staff. Take their interviews, create a panel, take their interviews, select the final appropriate research assistant. They will contribute in your project, help you in project at various stages, and you'll have to monthly pay them. These are all the requisites that every scheme distinctively may vary. And how do you know about it? All what you need to do is you need to visit their website and read. It's written in a very simplified manner. There is no rocket science in it. You need not be very expert in the field of research. A layman also can understand the basic things. If you have a good logical reasoning sense, then nobody can stop you from doing research. Let me tell you. Don't get scared about all the statistical tools, how to do it. However, you have a lot of experts to guide you over it. But what you want to do, that thing needs to be very clearly mentioned in your application. So a part of the application, part A, I've already spoken, where you need to give your basic details about your institution or from the university department where you're working. Or you need to give it from, if you're individually doing it, then any organization, then you need to mention the organization from where you're doing it. That is all part A. You need to mention about your qualifications. You need to mention your backtrack as an investigator. Kitna research kiya, what you did research, where you did your publication, any kind of achievements you have done. That's all about details, personal details you have given. Let's come to part B. Part B of your application is talking all about the research proposal. And when you talk about research proposal, let me tell you, one needs to be very careful while drafting the proposal. Ultimately, that's a silent salesman about the investigator, because it's talking about what is running in investigator's mind, for which the investigator is asking for grant. So while you're making your proposal, again go through the scheme's website and ask and check what is the guidelines for the application. Check it thoroughly. When you make your proposal, please ensure you take advices from your mentor. You take advices from your colleagues. Make them read your application. Make them read your proposal. Your proposal has to be realistic in nature. Second, when you're mentioning about your proposal at the introductory, these are certain tips I'm giving you. Okay, at the introductory part, you definitely have to talk about the industry where you are trying to do your project on. Give some relevance about what is the contribution of that industry in economic development of the country. For example, if I wanted to research some government, I have to talk about what is the contribution made by textile industry in the GDP of the country. How much of employability textile industry is creating, and how my research will contribute in the development of the textile industry. This is where the funding agency will get attracted, that the research is having some relevance for the development of the country or the society. So you have to make your introduction part has to have a lot of statistical presentations and demonstrations done. You will have to mention in past 3 years, 4 years, what has been the contribution of this particular sector in the development of the economy. And that is why you picked up this area for your research. You talk about a sector which is government also proposing that, promoting the sector well. It's the honeybee industry. Now, when you talk about honeybee industry, we also know how costly and how commercial the products are when you talk about coming up from honeybees, the honey that we get. Foreign market mein though, when you talk about import export, it is very costly. So who basically are involved in this in the sector of this honeybee development is usually the rural sector, and how government has come up with schemes to promote this particular sector, which has commercial viability also. I just give you an example from commerce point of view. So when you're thinking of a research project, you have to think from broader perspective. Your proposal should demonstrate innovation and path-breaking aspect, which is proposed in the research. You have to strengthen your research proposal. It has to talk in volumes. It has to talk loud as to how it is going to contribute in various policy making of the government or society development. It should show relevance, as I said, for policy making or society. Demonstrate access to use of expertise from appropriate co-applicants or collaboration. Here I said. So while you're making your proposal, ensure the proposal is well prepared, well presented, easy to read and understand. Many agencies have their requirements. You know, when you're applying to many agencies like UGC, ICSSR, DBT, any kind of such agencies, every agencies have their own requirements, that your application font size should be so and so. Your application should have these parameters covered, which you might think are rather trivial, but often they do make a lot of difference. Do not ignore such kind of mandates which are given on their websites. Make judicious use of the preliminary data. So previous researchers, what they have said, what they have contributed, and why have you selected this particular topic? You have to present statistics. So the preliminary data collection for secondary source of data collection, projecting as to why you have selected, and the introductory part only has to be very strong. See, the review committee will not go through your proposal fully. Those legends will just see your abstract and they will see the introductory part. Usse aage badhenge hi nahi, unless they find it very interesting. So your introduction part has to be strong, where you're going to talk about current present scenario of that industry in the economy. However, you use the word however in introduction. See, there are key words, what I'm telling you. Key words. The word however will say that you have identified some gap which you have spoken at the introduction part only. This gap is not been really shined so much in the research, which triggered the research or influenced the research to have a research on, then your title. So at the introduction only, you made it very clear what really fostered you to conduct this kind of a research. As your previous speaker said, respected resource person, that your citations has to be very well written in your research proposals. Because in case if they want to have in-depth study of the proposal, what you have made, then they may go through that citations which previous research studies had been made. That needs to be very clearly mentioned. If you're not having an expertise in the area of particular research stage, then demonstrate in your research project, your research proposal, that you're going to have collaboration with certain experts to tackle that specific part of the project. Because you say you're going to have collaboration with that expert, you will have to fund them. There you can mention amount in your budget, the amount to be given to the expert for the expert advice. So you are really trying to assemble a lot of things which will be required to conduct your research. This will make your research proposal talk aloud. So carefully do this assembling. Ensure that you involve the right team and get the best in your project. You may also talk about resources that you would like to use in your project. The resources, if it is science-based project, then you may require some scientific equipment. So mention those equipments and also mention the grants that you need to purchase those equipments for. Most of the scheme or most of the agencies have their guidelines on what cost is allowed and on what the cost is disallowed. So you should keep in mind that you cannot ask for every equipment for every expenditure. Certain expenditures are disallowed by that particular scheme. Hence, you need to read their website well while making up the budget for your proposal. In that budget, what are the parameters that they have given under which we can show our cost? So here you need to take the help of finance officer to give you final look at your budget presented in the proposal. Take help of your colleagues. Ultimately, you may require grant officer to take once a look at your proposal. यहाँ पे expert advice बहुत चाहिए. This is not a routine paper you're doing. My dear friends, you're asking for funds. You're going to utilize that funds for doing this research. So it has to be appropriately mentioned as to where you're going to utilize this funded funds in your research. Last stage, you're going to talk about final touches in your proposal. So polish your application, your proposal very well. Polish, I don't mean to say use flowery language. Use a language which is research-based. Use a language which is not very technical, which is easily understood by the reader. A sense of clarity needs to be there. You need to defend well why have you taken this sample size. Your research methodology has to be very strong, because your research methodology is going to talk about what's your sampling technique, What's your sample size? Is there any sample frame? Your research methodology is going to talk about what are the statistical tools you're going to use. So basically, friends, when you're making this research proposal, it is start with an end in your mind. You cannot be whimsy at that stage. Let's see what will happen. No. You need to know at the end what you want to do. You need to know in the beginning which statistical tools are you going to apply to test your hypothesis also and analyze your data. Hence, the minimum qualification given is PhD. One of the eligibility criteria to apply for grants. Because doing PhD, you have gone through all the stages and you're well versed with what direction you have to think in to make the proposal. Invite opinion from colleagues and mentor. Is the font size correct? There are always in the application, they give you limits. And what kind of questions they ask in the proposal is, how will it contribute towards social relevance? How will it contribute towards path-breaking innovation? Describe it in 200 words, describe it in 300 words. So you have to ensure that you don't cross this upper limit while giving explanations. Your explanation as to why you picked up this topic and how will it contribute has to be adhere to the limits of the words that they have mentioned. Is there any kind of further requirements post-publication? Are we connected? Check. Check. Are we connected? Check. Are we connected?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we are connected. No, I just was in two minds whether I'm connected on the platform or not. So I hope I'm making sense to the audience when I'm talking about what is the pathway that the researcher needs to follow when we talk about getting grants. So I have next 15 minutes in my hand when I'm going to talk about the proposal that you need to make, complete all the aspects, check final touches whether the proposal has got the required details, etc. Well, this is what basically we follow in our research proposals. Introduction. I told you how introduction needs to be there. Origin of research problem. It should be interdisciplinary, not just focusing on one area. Review of literature needs to be done at national, international level, both. Next, you need to talk about what is the status of your topic at national and international level. What's going to be the significance and scope of your study. Your methodology for conducting the research needs to be very strongly mentioned and demonstrated. The citations and references needs to be clearly done. The budgeting as to how the funded funds will be utilized needs to be well mentioned with the help of finance officer, a grant officer. You should also ensure that you take their advice while making the budget part also. Do not overquote, do not underquote. Ensure that when you're quoting are into the limits of the scheme, what they mention on their website. Also, detailed collaborations that you need. If you want for your research study, you need to mention that you're going to collaborate with which party as an expertise for your research. Finally, the biodata of the investigator, that I said, the backtrack of the investigator needs to be well presented as to what has been her contribution or his contribution in the field of research so far before putting a proposal for funding for the next research that the investigator is looking forward for. So we finished on the proposal part now, complete. अब बात आती है कि ma'am, I understood what is funding required for. I understood what is the eligibility in order to ask funds. I also understood that how to write application, what is part A of application, what is part B of application. In part B is making of the proposal. So you told us which areas that we need to concentrate and think about while making the proposal. Now the proposal is ready. Now please let us know which are the agencies where we can really look out for funding. So now I talk about these agencies. Next 10 minutes I have got in my hand. So what are these funding agencies? These funding agencies are usually agencies or organizations that provides you research fundings in the form of scholarship and research grants. These organizations can be research councils, government agencies, some of the projects that are really related to social sciences. Hence, charitable organizations and NGOs also provide fundings for research. Okay? Organizations and the projects that require fundings normally have to go competitive selections. So even if you're applying for major research, minor research, for research grants, for research awards, there is a lot of competition, because along with you, thousands of other applications also come where you have to compete in the market for getting this grant. So hence I said your proposal has to speak about what's running in your mind and has to talk in volumes. Only the potential ones will be chosen and fundings will be given. The fundings are given in 3 levels: international level, national level, and regional level. I will basically now focus on various agencies at national level which gives you funding. The first 2 agencies that you can see are UGC and ICSSR. These are the fundings were given in science, but also in other disciplines like social science and humanities. So hence I first pick up of ICSSR, which is Indian Council of Social Science Research. I've also mentioned the site link here. You can click and you go on their website. The website looks something like this. When you talk about grants given by ICSSR, they come out with the advertisement in a year, and this advertisement calls for proposals. You need to be alert as to when their ads are coming out. The window period open is very short period. In 2022, the window period was open for around 2 months. And within a 2-month span of time, you have to submit your application and your proposal. So ICSSR gives you funding for major research and minor research projects. Major research is for 2 years time, and funding what they give you is 5 to 15 lakhs. When you talk about minor research, the upper limit time duration, I told you, check on the time durations also while making your project. So my ICSSR gives minor research only for a period of 1 year, and the amount what you can make your budget up to is 5 lakh rupees. So there are some more things what I mentioned when you want to apply here. ICSSR provides grant for projects, fellowships, international collaborations, capacity building, workshops, seminar. The first slide I told you why grants are asked for. So grants are asked for fellowship, grants are asked for training, seminar, workshop, grants are asked for publication, grants are asked for travel, for data collection. ICSSR is providing grants for all these stages of research which you can ask for. So create this awareness in your mind that grants can be given at every stage of research that you want to ask for. So promote research in social sciences in India. These are the broad disciplines in social science what I mentioned. They give you grants in commerce, management, economics, cultural studies. They also give you grants in education, politics, all social sciences. Social geography, environment studies, media studies. So this is one of the schemes, funding agencies, very popular, that one can really put in your applications. Getting selected is not an easy game, but do not lose hope. Keep putting your applications, keeping in mind the parameters, what the review committee is looking forward for in the application. Try and satisfy that in your proposal in order to get shortlisted. ICSSR award are basically 2 types I told you, based on the duration and the study and the budget. Minor and major I have told you. Major is for 12 to 24 months, 5 lakhs to 15 lakhs. Minor is for 6 to 12 months. Budget is 5 lakhs up to. How to apply? Unki ads aati hai. They come up with an advertisement that we are welcoming proposals for funding. Based in response to the ad, you can apply for your proposal. Submission of the application is online on their portal. Procedure for awards: you have a scrutiny committee who is going to screen your application. Eligible applications are examined by the experts. These experts are well established and legends in research, so they really know the look and ins and out and insights of research. So what is running in your mind, they can read it very well. When you are applying for your research fundings. Expert committee makes recommendations for the award of the study and also suggests budget for recommendation. So in your proposal, you must have, if minor research, you must have asked for 3 lakh. But reading through your proposal, they said 3 lakh is zaroor nahi hai, 2 lakh is enough for your study. Then they may revise your budget and they may award you the project, but the budget may be then revised by them from 3 lakh to 2 lakh, depending upon what's the research methodology that you mentioned in your proposal. Recommendation of the expert committee are placed before the requisite committee for their final approval, and the award is then given to the candidate. This is the next platform agency for funding. We all know that is UGC, University Grants Commission. It has various schemes. Under various schemes you can apply. One needs to take care when you're applying for UGC. UGC gives funding for JRF, postdoctoral fellowship, Rajiv Gandhi fellowship, etc. Their windows are open for a limited period of time. Please visit their website to know as to what is the window period open and when you can apply for your applications to get this kind of fundings. They also give minor research, major research, awards to the faculties, and scholarships as given. Grants for conducting seminars and workshops are also being given to the college and universities by UGC that you can apply for. While I give you a slight of difference, UGC has certain kind of parameters to give fundings for major research and minor research. These are certain points that one needs to keep in mind. Your institution needs to be recognized under 2F 12B. Major research, 20 lakhs for science. Major research fundings can be given 50 lakhs for social science, and the period is around 2 to 3 years. Minor research for UGC. UGC gives minor research fundings that is up to 5 lakh rupees. For science, and for social sciences up to 3 lakh rupees only, and the period is for 1 year. Research award for faculty and scholars. So who can apply for this awards? Baba, your age has to be below 45, and the period for the award is around for 2 years, and no guidance as such for research is given. You need to complete the research grant in the duration of 2 years. A grant for 2 to 3 lakhs is given by UGC. This is CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. So this is more now in the domain of science, you can say, because biotechnology, drugs, chemicals, nanotechnology for mining, aeronautics, instrumentation, environmental energy, all that research in that domain, if you want funding, then this is the platform agency that you can browse through, look into their scheme, what they're offering, and you can apply for your proposal. If anybody wants to apply it in biotechnology, precise Department of Biotechnology, then you can apply for DTP. I have given on the website link, go through it. The basic requirements, the scheme is asking for, read through their requirements before you apply as an application for proposal for funding. This is Department of Science and Technology. So people belonging from the area of science and technology can definitely go to DST. That's a website, beautiful website, where government has made a lot of efforts to give. Honorable Prime Minister has made a lot of initiatives to provide fundings to the researchers for the innovative ideas that they want to execute and conduct research on. Ministry of Environment, somebody who wants to do their research and get fundings in the area of geography, climate changes, forestry, you may visit MOEF and CC as a website in order to understand what are the various schemes that government is providing in order to do advanced research, which are fund-based by the government. Well, this is for higher education. Anybody in the field of education who wants to do their research study on AICTE, that is All India Council of Technical Education, may have their proposals sent here under schemes, as I mentioned here. Under the schemes, a lot of offers are made, and this is available throughout the year, where you have to check on when you can submit your proposals in order to get the grants to conduct your research in the field of technical education in India. That's another domain, that is Defense Research and Development Organization. So that is known as DRDO, network of more than 50 laboratories which are deeply engaged in developing defense technology. So anybody from the field of electronics, armaments, missiles, and research development department can definitely apply here for getting their fundings for their project. So this is their site. Many, many more are there. I really cannot cover up in the span of 1 hour for about fundings. Tamil Nadu State Council of Science and Technology, this is another kind of a funding agency. Go through their website to find out the scheme in order to know that what is the upper limit and eligibility to apply. These are various ministries. Please remember, if you're applying for some kind of project, look into these ministries what are various schemes this ministry has offered, and how will your project contribute in devising this policies for various schemes that you can always propose it in your proposal. Maybe for labor, maybe for entrepreneurship, various schemes government has come up. You should not be unaware about the schemes government has already offered, and you are trying to propose it in your proposal. Your proposal will get rejected saying the schemes are already offered by government. So you should know what are the schemes offered before you make any kind of proposals and conclusions in your proposal, what you are trying to contribute in the field of research. These are some of the ministries. Again, rural development way, what are the schemes government has come out, you should know. In addition, any scheme that you want to propose to the government in your proposal, then you can add it on over here. I'm sorry, I cannot talk in depth for all, understanding the time constraint that I have. Since this is an international level FDP, which workshop which is on, I've tried to come up with certain kind of fundings which are at international level also. Ford foundations, you have Commonwealth foundations. Just go through this website about this, and they're talking about the fundings that they have been providing at international levels also in order to conduct your research. Toyota Foundation, they also give fundings to conduct your research outside the boundary of the country. So these are the funding agencies at international level you can browse through in order to get your fundings. I also spoke about NGOs which gives you fundings. So Malcolm and Elizabeth Trust in Chennai is one of the agencies, NGOs, which also provides funding in order to contribute towards the research in giving social relevance. And they have a window period open for which you need to submit your proposal. Well, there are many more agencies, but I think I need to give a stop here. Thank you very much to the audience to give a patient listening. I hope I have given you certain tips and certain kind of ideas as to how you can apply for effective funding. Thank you very much. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. My heartfelt thanks for the talk you delivered. Such a topic is difficult to dwell into, but you delivered it almost effortlessly. You have touched every nook and corner.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Now we'll move to queries. I request the participants, feel free to ask. Those who have any technical issue to speak, they can type a message in the chat box so that I can explain to ma'am. You can get an answer for your question.
Oh, .3 I finished, huh?
Participants.
I think questions arises once they get involved in the work. Once they start doing their work, ma'am, that's how the queries will be raised. And we are always there. My mail ID can always be, ma'am, shared with the audience as and how they have queries. We are always there to help them out. Because in their journey, once they start with the procedure, probably then the queries may raise where we can always give them assistance.
Yes, yes.
All right, I think there are no queries, ma'am. Thank you very much for giving me this platform to share the light of knowledge on research for especially how to make projects to get grants. And I'm sure that the audience will take some initiative and lead, at least to make an application, a proposal submitted. Acceptance, rejectance is the next stage, but at least take a lead and initiative from your end to submit the proposal.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, Dr. Risha ma'am, Dr. Poonam ma'am, for your presentations. We expect your approval in many more workshops a year ahead. Now we came to the end of this session. I request all the participants of today's workshop to attend the second day of our program, that is tomorrow, 30th May. Same timings from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And there are two interesting topics for tomorrow's session. First one, selecting journal for publication by Dr. Magna Anissa. Second one, the process of writing research paper by Dr. Antarlina Basu. So don't miss tomorrow's session, and bye-bye. Thank you so much for your patience listening. And thank you so much, Dr. Risha ma'am, Dr. Poonam ma'am, for sharing such a valuable information to our participants.
Thank
And
you,
I
ma'am.
thank Nirmal Foundation, Elliot, and even Cape Comorin Trust for giving this wonderful opportunity.